This is part one of 4 videos on the epoxy lamp. This part is over the log being cut into the wood piece that's going to be in the lamp.
today I've got a piece of wood here that I'm going to make a lamp out of it, but I've got some features that I want to add a resin to cap it off so it won't be gassing off and airing off while I'm pouring the whole thing. This is my piece of cedar, and I'm going to try to seal up some of these spots. I've took and grounded some of it out, but I don't think it matters. We'll see. I'm going to use a pearl. It's a powder pearl, and it's a real pretty color. I've done mixed up some resin here of the epoxy resin, and now I'm just going to add a little bit of pearl to it, and like that. And this should be real clear, but it should have a pearl look and have some glitter in it. It's real pretty. But I'm going to add this to my cedar to cap off the hose. And you can see the little glitter on my gloves. I don't know if you can see it that or not, but this has done been mixed. So now I'm just mixing the powder into it. As you can see, it's a real pretty color. And I'm going to re-sand this when I get it dried, to where the pearl just down into the cracks of the cedar. I'm just going to cap that hoe off, and hopefully I don't know if you can see it, but it seeks down into that crack and seals it up really well. And then I'm also going to do it down here. This is epoxy resin. It's a self-leveling epoxy. It's for like clear epoxy for like bars, countertops, and stuff like that. The bar tables, the restaurant tables. How you seal that clear so you could actually eat off this stuff after you're done. Once it cures, it would be that kind of a resin. Go ahead and clean that up. And I don't know how this will look. It may look terrible, but I'm hoping it'll look like like it's a sappy looking color coming out of the lamp in these areas. And this should seal it up somewhat. So when I pour this into the lamp, it actually bond to this, what I just put in, the epoxy I've got now, and it won't be doing something crazy on me later on, where there's a bunch of air or something in it. This here should get rid of that problem. And you can see how it just ran off, which is fine. Because more or less it's going to be like that right there. Once it's all sanded off, it's just going to be a little shiny inside the wood. Like that. And I don't care if it's not straight, because when I pour inside to have it solid, and you'll see what I'm talking about at the end results. I'm just using a stick. You could use your hands or anything. I'm just sealing up the cracks. Now on the back side, I have a lot of cracks. I may have to go back over the front again, and I could have did it where it dries and then flip it over and do it on the other side, but I'm not as much worried about that. I may do it again. I mean, it may not turn out and I'll have to do it again. See how it's got a big hole there that I just filled up? See, big holes. If I can fill this up with epoxy, and I could put a little piece of tape there, it would help hold it. But I'm just wanting to wet it out mainly. And then have the other epoxy, when I pour it inside a thing, it'll fill it on up. As long as I can close the little air problems that I might have, is what I'm trying to do. This piece of cedar had a lot of rottage type in it, where it was a little bit of rotted. I don't say rotted, bugs got in it, and well, something got into it. They had ants in it and stuff like that, and I always heard bugs don't get in cedar, but apparently do. This one had an ant's nest in it. But if we can seal up any of that that'll help me in the future. That's what I'm trying to do. Plus give it a little color. I'm just about out of the resin. I can mix up more, but I don't know if I want to. I may smear it real thin here and just let it do its thing. Because it's mainly going to run out anyway. I should be able to get some off the table. Let that run down in there. I just think the pearl's a real pretty color, and it would be something you would see in the water too. Some glitter hit going on down deep in the water, because I'm going to bake this with I'm going to take and put a crankbait on it and put a little old crawdad. At the store I've got I sell little crawls and stuff that's for fishing, that's actually a live, well, it used to be a live crawl that they've put in vacuum packs that you can sell for like fishing with. I'm going to try to use one of them as a little crawl, and then I'm going to have a crankbait, a little small crankbait, probably a DD6 or something like that. 6-foot crankbait where it's running by a stump, and hopefully that'll look okay. I don't know, we'll see. Right now it looks kind of like a mess, but I believe it's actually doing what I want. Just capping that off, and like I said, I'll sand the top part off, leaving it down in there. That should run down in there and get most of that handled. Right on this little old lip thing is where I'm wanting to put the little crawdad that's crawling right here. I kind of dug it out. I believe it's right there is where I want it. This all looks good. Okay, all I need now, let this thing dry out. Come back and sand the top surface off and see if it worked what I wanted to do. See how that one looks with the pearl down in there? Instead of having a hole there, it has full of epoxy resin. I'm going to let this thing dry. If I take it, I'll let it dry overnight and then come back and sand on it another day. Looks like it's getting good wet out everywhere. Good enough for who it's for, me. This is going to be the bottom that's going to be in wood and have a light shining up through it. So let me go put this somewhere and let it dry. Let's see what we got. I've been doing some floats for a company. I made that float for them, and this is I know I'm just walking through the shop, but I'm having to foam fill it. That's one of them floats that shoots water up in the air, 15 foot or whatever. I make those too. That's the mess that we got going on. Got a couple of paintings back here I did. I just signed my name on them and stuff like that. That's number 1 and 2 that I've done on them. I'm letting dry. I believe I'll set this, since I don't care, set it on this piece of plastic that's dripping already. That's done dripped on. And I'll just set this down. Let's do it this way. Even though it's going to be the front pretty side, I'm going to set it face down, let that kind of soak in that back. Because that back's got more resin, it'll drain out more. Okay. That's got it for the day. We'll come back and work on that piece of wood later, next time. I got my part back. I got it from being dried overnight. See how it sealed up a lot of stuff? I'm going to sand it down real quick, look at it, and decide if I want to fill the hose up solid or not. Sand it down real quick. After checking this thing out, I mean the back side I still got a lot to do with it. That's the reason I didn't clean it that much. Front side looks good. You really can't see the pearl in it like I thought you could, but it sealed everything good. On the back side, I think I want to fill this up and make it even with the top, just to where it's all filled up. So I'm going to tape off spots and then fill this all up solid and see what happens there. I think I could fill it up and look better than it being encaved, because this is going to be the bottom. So I'm going to put like I build a little mold and then embed some black in there, like a charcoal color, and then set this on it and fill it up with resin. Well, that's still leave pockets behind it, and I don't like it. So I think I'm going to go ahead and fill it all up. I believe I will use the pearl and just fill it all the way up with pearl. Okay, got my resins out. Getting ready to do some stirring. I taped this off so it won't drip out anywhere, so it should just seal right up, or fill it up. Okay, I want to take the thicker resin, A and B. This is the thick one. It is it says it on there probably, but it's supposed to be A and B. This is the thicker one. I like putting it in first, and the reason being is because it's hard to pour and I can't tell how much. See how it drips out like honey or something, syrup, and it's hard to measure with this side. The other side runs real quick and easy, and I can tell, hey, I need X amount, because it's 50-50. And I can eyeball it enough to make it work. I don't need to measure it. I've been working in composites half my life, so it don't have to be totally perfect, but it needs to be pretty close. Right in there. Should be close enough. It'll make it all kick. And when I say kick, I mean it'll set up. I might got too little of a cup, but I wanted to fill all that up. Okay, you do want to work on the sides and the bottom, cleaning off any loose, like one thing of resin only stuck to one spot will not cure good. I am going to try to put pearl in here too. It'll probably drip down on my hand if I spill it over. Just like scrambling eggs. My first supervisor, when I was first laying up my first composite thing, he said, he was telling me how to mix it up. And he says, you got to really stir it good. He says, how do you think you need to stir it? And I said, like scrambling eggs. He says, perfect, exactly what you need to do. So, just like if you were scrambling your eggs in the morning, you're wanting to churn it all up. If you noticed, I have been raking the side and the bottom, and now I'm taking my stick in case there was some collected it, but most likely it would have got it anyway. But okay, that should be mixed pretty well. Now the hard part, since that's such a little cup, is putting this silver in. But I'm going to try to do it, but I'm going to do it with a new stick. It's a used stick, but it's a new used stick. If that makes any sense. A new used stick. Okay. I usually, anytime I'm using a powder, if you can see the little particles going, you can put a dust mask on, but I just slightly blow, just like a little slight blow, and it keeps it from going towards your nose and your mouth. In the composites, we use a lot of isopheres, which is a filler to make it thicker. And those really stand out a lot of dust and a lot of little particles floating in the air. I will actually probably wear a dust mask with something like that, unless it's just a little bit I'm thickening up some to fill up a certain spot or something that I don't, you know, just like I did here. If it's just a little bit I'm adding in something just to barely thicken it so it won't run all off, I would just slightly give a puff of air, slightly blowing to keep it away from you. This is epoxies. It's not the polyester or the vinyl ester resins. The epoxy does not use the catalyst, which is great. The catalyst is the little drops you put in on the polyester resin. What you got to worry about on that is it will blind you. So don't rub your eyes if you get any catalyst on your hands or anything, because it will blind you quicker than anything. You'll be blind. So be careful with any time you're putting the little drops of isopheres, or not isopheres, but the catalyst in the polyester resins, which you should not be using those for what we're doing here. What we're doing here is just all epoxy type stuff. Well, that one's soaking in good there. That must be a lot of big hole down there. See it gone? Might be running out on my table. That one's soaked in somewhere. It went bye-bye. And fill up that little crack. And this I'll sand out somewhat. I don't know how great I'm going to sand it, since it's going to be mostly hidden. But it may not. It may turn out to be the prettier side and I use it. You never know when you're working on an art piece. Something you think would be no good might be the part you use. It's like, oh, this looks really good. These sunk down a little, but not too bad. There's some. That one sunk out, so I don't know. Used up a lot of the resin. Looks like I'm a hair short, don't it? I'm filling it up. This dog did good except for that. Well, I'm going to go ahead and mix up a little more. This is the thicker one. And I'm going to pour it in my same cup. I don't need much. Hate to say it, but I can't get that foam. Okay, that's enough, probably. Now let's go get a little more. There we go. I'll check and see who that was called me here in a minute. Looks about right. Thought about putting the gold instead of the pearl. Thought about doing the gold in there, but you know, that cedar, that pearl, that cedar is a darker reddish wood. The gold would probably work pretty too, but I figured just go ahead and use the pearl. Then it'll kind of sparkle. But I probably, like I said, covering it up with a lighter color unless I change my mind. I may go ahead and just leave it clear. This is the pearl. Got it at Hobby Lobby. It's a epoxy powder mix. I'm having to blow on it. Okay. There might be a hollow spot in the wood and it's just soaking all the way up through it on that one spot. That just shows you, if I'd left it and not filled this up, then when I put my resin in, it would definitely have air trapped in it and stuff. Look how much this one's settled down a little bit too. Okay, let's see if I've got enough. I may have to do it again, and I will if I do. Sure that one ain't, no, it ain't dripping. Yeah, that's good and level looking. I'm almost scared to put it in that until I make sure I've got plenty over here. I want to kind of bubble it up a little bit. But it is easier to drop the wood than it is to... Okay. That piece of wood's a little unlevel down through there, so it's going to run out on the wood. But that's okay. Let me pour a little bit more right here. Okay, here we go. Let's see how much it soaks this up. Look at it. Boom. This is a pretty thick pour because how thick it is. It may gas off and leave bubbles and turn like yellow looking. We'll see. It filled it up. It ain't sinking down, so that worked good. Only low spots got that because of this spot down here. But I'll live with it. Good enough for who it's for. Me. I'll cut my big grinder on it and cut that down if I have to. Well, alrighty. If I pick this up and it dumps all the resin out from it's stuck to the bottom, I'm gonna go lay it somewhere that levels off. It ain't dripping. Let me take this into another area. Don't drip it on me. Let it sit in here and cure till tomorrow. Set it on that concrete there. Okay, until tomorrow we'll look at it again. I believe we're good. I believe we'll be fine. If you started out with a good piece of cedar that didn't have pits and cribbies and stuff like that in it, wouldn't have to do all this work, but you know, that's what I had's what I got, so that's what I'm using. Till next time. Okay, on my wooden light, cedar light that I'm doing, I've poured resin all over it, filling up the cracks and the holes with resin, with pearl added. And as you can see, all the cracks and stuff I filled up with the pearl, which I think will look really nice. Pearl on there. Now I'm just getting ready to sand this on down. I took a little bit off just a minute ago, but I'm going to sand this on down and then smooth it out with the DA machine. Right now I'm using my grinder here just to get the rough stuff off. But I will be grinding it on down with the 220 sandpaper. So I'll show you what it looks like after I get it sanded. Okay, I finished it down to a 220 finish. I'm leaving this rosin look to it, the pearl look. I think that will look fine. Kind of like that. Kind of gives it a look like it's, you know, the roughness of it. Here's the pearl at a 220 finish coming through. This is the back side, so it actually looks pretty cool, I think, like that itself. But this will be most likely the back side. Yeah, definitely. But I finished every spot on it with 220, so it's pretty smooth right now. Now I've got to build the frame for it, to pour the resin on top of it and put my little crawfish and stuff I want to put in here in my crankbait that I'm going to hook into it to make my light. So let me build the frame up the little plastic. I'll show you what it looks like when I get done with that. Thank you for watching part 1 of 4 videos. Part 2 will cover the mold building and also some epoxy pour in the mold.